At 14:30 hours on January 3rd, 1941, 7 men entered a conference room at 58 St. James Street in London. The building housed the headquarters of MI5, Britain's domestic counterintelligence service. The men took seats around a table and began the first meeting of what would become the most successful deception operation in military history. They called themselves the 20 Committee. The name came from the Roman numerals XX, a double cross. The chairman was Major John Cecil Masterman, an Oxford Don who had been recruited into MI5 in 1939. Masterman was 47 years old, precise, meticulous, obsessed with detail. He had spent the previous year helping MI5 identify and capture German spies operating in Britain. Now, his task was more complex, not just catching spies, turning them, running them, using them to feed false intelligence back to Germany. The other committee members represented various intelligence agencies and military services. MI5 provided counterintelligence expertise. MI6 contributed knowledge of German intelligence methods. The military services sent representatives to ensure deception operations supported military plans. The Ministry of Information provided specialists in propaganda and psychological operations. Together, they would manage Britain's double agents. By January 1941, MI5 had captured approximately 25 German agents who had been sent to Britain since the war began. Some had been arrested immediately upon arrival. Others had operated for weeks or months before being identified and captured. A few had voluntarily surrendered to British authorities after landing, preferring internment to working for Germany. The captured agents faced a choice: cooperate with British intelligence and become double agents, or face trial and execution. The choice was not difficult. Every agent chose cooperation. Some were motivated by self-preservation. Others were genuine ideological converts who opposed Nazi Germany. A few were simply mercenaries willing to work for whoever paid them. The motivations varied. The result was the same. MI5 now controlled 24 German agents, but controlling agents was only half the challenge. The agents had to remain credible to German intelligence. That required sending intelligence back to Germany that was accurate enough to be believed, but not valuable enough to harm British interests. The balance was delicate and dangerous. Send too much false intelligence, and Germany would suspect the agents were compromised. Send too much real intelligence, and Britain would be helping Germany win the war. The 20 Committee's task was finding the narrow path between these extremes. The committee established procedures immediately. All messages sent by double agents to Germany had to be approved by the committee. Every piece of intelligence, every observation, every report required authorization. The agents could not improvise. They transmitted only what the committee approved. This centralized control was essential. Without it, different agents might send contradicting information that would expose the entire system. The committee also established principles for what intelligence could be sacrificed. Low-value information that Germany could obtain from other sources was safe to transmit. Information that was time-sensitive and would be outdated before Germany could use it was acceptable. Information that was partially true but misleading in context was ideal. Information that was completely false but unprovable was risky, but sometimes necessary. The most important principle was that no intelligence could be sent that would cause the committee to lose control of the narrative. If a double agent reported something and Germany later discovered through other sources that the report was false, the agent would be suspected. Therefore, the committee had to know what Germany knew from other sources. They had to understand what intelligence Germany was receiving from neutral countries, from aerial reconnaissance, from signals intelligence, from diplomatic contacts. Only by understanding Germany's complete intelligence picture could the committee safely feed information through double agents. This requirement meant the 20 Committee needed access to Ultra, the intelligence derived from breaking German Enigma codes. Ultra revealed what German intelligence was receiving, what they believed, what they were asking agents to investigate. Without Ultra, the double-cross system would have been impossible. With Ultra, the committee could craft deception that fit perfectly with Germany's existing knowledge and expectations. The system worked because Germany's intelligence services were incompetent in ways that helped Britain enormously. The Abwehr German military intelligence was understaffed, poorly funded, and led by officers more interested in protecting bureaucratic turf than gathering accurate intelligence. The Sicherheitsdienst. The SS intelligence service was focused primarily on political threats to the Nazi regime rather than military intelligence. The two services competed rather than cooperated. Neither had systematic procedures for validating agent reports. German intelligence accepted agent reports largely at face value if the report seemed plausible. They had no effective way to cross-check information from multiple sources. If Agent Snow reported that British tank production was 200 units per month and Agent Tate reported 250 units per month, German analysts would average the figures and report 225 units per month. They did not question why two supposedly independent agents had similar but slightly different information. They did not suspect that both agents might be controlled by the same counterintelligence service, feeding them consistent but false data. By spring 1941, Masterman and his committee began suspecting something extraordinary. They had captured 24 German agents, but German intelligence kept sending more agents to Britain. Each new agent was captured within days or weeks of arrival. The pattern suggested that Germany had no successful agents operating in Britain. If Germany had genuine agents providing intelligence, they would not need to keep sending new agents who were immediately caught. The realization was stunning. MI5 might have captured every single German agent operating in Britain, not most of them, not nearly all of them, every single one. If true, this meant Britain controlled Germany's entire intelligence network in the UK. Every piece of intelligence Germany received about Britain came through channels MI5 controlled. But how could MI5 be certain? The nature of intelligence work made certainty impossible. There might be an agent they had not discovered, a sleeper agent who had entered Britain before the war and was living under deep cover, a German agent with perfect false identity and no contact with other agents. The possibility could not be eliminated. The committee examined the evidence carefully. German intelligence was still asking basic questions about British defenses, questions that would be unnecessary if Germany had successful agents already reporting. German bombers were still hitting targets based on outdated intelligence, suggesting they lacked current information. Most tellingly, German intelligence kept recruiting and sending new agents, which would be unnecessary if existing agents were functioning successfully. By mid-1941, Masterman concluded with reasonable confidence that MI5 had indeed captured or turned every German agent operating in Britain. The conclusion was not absolute certainty, but it was high confidence based on accumulated evidence. And if the conclusion was correct, the implications were enormous. If Britain controlled all German agents, then Britain controlled all intelligence Germany received about Britain. That meant Britain could shape German understanding of British military capabilities, British defense preparations, British industrial production, British morale, everything. The strategic possibilities were limitless, but exploiting those possibilities required maintaining the deception. Germany could never discover that all their agents were compromised. A single mistake could expose everything. An agent might be caught sending a message they had not been authorized to send. A piece of intelligence might be proved false by German reconnaissance. An agent's cover story might be investigated and found to be fabricated. Any of these failures could unravel the entire system. The committee established strict security protocols. Double agents were kept isolated from each other when possible. They did not know about other double agents. If one agent was exposed, the damage would be contained. Agents lived under constant surveillance. MI5 officers monitored every aspect of their lives. Mail was read, phone calls were recorded, visitors were investigated. The agents were prisoners in all but name, though some lived in comfortable accommodations rather than cells. The agents sent messages to Germany using whatever method they had been trained to use. Some used wireless radios, transmitting in Morse code using encryption systems Germany had provided. Others used invisible ink to write letters sent through neutral countries. A few used more exotic methods like microdots, photographs reduced to the size of a period that contained full pages of text. Whatever the method, Every message was composed by the 20 Committee and transmitted by the agent under MI5 supervision. One of the most successful double agents was a Spaniard codenamed Garbo by the British. His real name was Juan Pujol Garcia. Pujol had volunteered to work for British intelligence in 1941, but was initially rejected. Undeterred, he contacted German intelligence and offered to spy for Germany. The Germans accepted. They gave him training, invisible ink, questionnaires about British defenses, and money. Then they sent him to Britain. Pujol never went to Britain. He went to Lisbon, Portugal. From Lisbon, he began sending reports to Germany claiming to be in Britain. The reports were complete fabrications based on guidebooks, magazine articles, and Pujol's imagination. He invented sub-agents, a network of fictitious sources supposedly providing him information. He reported on British troop movements, factory production, civilian morale. All of it was invented. The Germans believed every word. They paid him. They sent him more questionnaires. They praised his work. Pujol's fictitious reports were being distributed to German military commanders as genuine intelligence. He was inventing Britain's military situation, and Germany was accepting his inventions as fact. British intelligence discovered Pujol's operation in early 1942 through ultra-intercepts. They were simultaneously impressed and alarmed. Impressed because Pujol had fooled German intelligence completely on his own initiative. Alarmed because his fictitious reports might contradict intelligence British double agents were sending, which could expose the entire double-cross system. MI5 contacted Pujol and brought him to Britain in April 1942. They took control of his network of fictitious sub-agents. They began coordinating Pujol's reports with the broader deception strategy. Garbo became the most prolific double agent in the system. By 1944, his network included 27 fictitious sub-agents, each with detailed backstories, each supposedly providing intelligence from different locations across Britain. Germany believed they were receiving intelligence from a network of dozens of sources. In reality, all 27 sources were inventions controlled by the 20 Committee. The intelligence Garbo sent to Germany was a carefully calibrated mixture of truth and deception. Some reports were completely accurate, but concerned matters of no strategic importance. Garbo might report that a specific military unit was stationed in a particular town, true information that Germany could verify through other sources, which enhanced Garbo's credibility, but which did not reveal anything useful because the unit was not involved in any planned operations. Other reports were partially true but misleading. Garbo might report that landing craft were being concentrated in Scottish ports true, but omitting the information that the craft were for training exercises, not for an invasion. Germany would interpret the report as evidence that an invasion of Norway was being planned, which fit German expectations and diverted German forces from defending France. Still, other reports were completely false, but carefully crafted to be unprovable. Garbo might report that a new tank division was forming in Wales false, but Germany had no way to verify this through reconnaissance because cloud cover prevented aerial photography of Wales that week. By the time Germany could verify, the 20 Committee would report that the division had moved to another location, maintaining the deception. The most difficult decisions involved sacrificing real intelligence to maintain credibility. If Garbo never reported information that Germany subsequently discovered was true from other sources, Germany would suspect Garbo's intelligence was being controlled. Therefore, Garbo occasionally had to report accurate, valuable intelligence that would harm British interests. The committee established rules for acceptable sacrifices. They could report military information that was time-sensitive if they delayed the report until it was too late for Germany to exploit. For example, if a convoy was departing Liverpool on Monday, Garbo could report on Saturday that a convoy was preparing to depart. Germany would receive the report on Monday after the convoy had already sailed. The information was accurate, which enhanced credibility, but arrived too late to be useful. They could report military movements that Germany could observe anyway through reconnaissance. If German aircraft photographed tank formations moving through southern England, Garbo could report having seen the same formations. The intelligence was real, but added nothing to what Germany already knew. The most painful sacrifices involved allowing German attacks to succeed when warning could have prevented them. If Garbo reported that a factory in Birmingham was producing aircraft engines, and German bombers subsequently attacked that factory, British fighters and anti-aircraft guns could not be suspiciously concentrated around that specific factory. Doing so would suggest Germany's intelligence had been compromised and that British forces were aware of German targeting. The committee had to make brutal calculations. How many British lives was the double-cross system worth? If maintaining the system required allowing a factory to be bombed when it could have been defended, killing dozens of workers, was that acceptable? The committee decided it was the strategic value of controlling German intelligence was more important than individual tactical situations. The system had to be protected, even if that meant accepting casualties that could have been prevented. These decisions were not made lightly. The committee agonized over each sacrifice. They tried to minimize unnecessary casualties. They arranged for air raid warnings to be issued based on general German activity rather than specific intelligence. They evacuated workers from targeted factories when possible, using justifications that would not expose the double agents. But sometimes there was no way to prevent casualties without risking the system. In those cases, the system took priority. The payoff came in 1944 with Operation Fortitude, the deception plan supporting D-Day. The Allied invasion of France was scheduled for June 1944. German forces had to be kept away from Normandy. That required convincing Germany the invasion would occur elsewhere, preferably in the Pas-de-Calais region, where the English Channel was narrowest. Fortitude was a massive deception operation involving dummy equipment, fake radio traffic, and controlled leaks through diplomatic channels. But the centerpiece was the double-cross system. The double agents, particularly Garbo, sent reports indicating that massive invasion forces were assembling in southeastern England opposite Calais. They reported seeing tank divisions, landing craft, supply dumps. They described insignia of military units known to be commanded by General George Patton, who Germany believed would lead the invasion. All of it was false. The real invasion force was assembling in southwestern England opposite Normandy. Patton commanded nothing. He was assigned to a fictitious army group that existed only on paper and in double-agent reports. But Germany believed the deception completely because the intelligence came from sources they trusted, sources that had been providing reliable information for 3 years. German intelligence assessed that the main invasion would hit Calais. They positioned their strongest forces accordingly. The German 15th Army, with 19 divisions, defended Calais. The 7th Army, with only 8 divisions, defended Normandy. When Allied forces landed in Normandy on June 6th, German commanders believed it was a feint. The real invasion would hit Calais next. They kept the 15th Army in position, defending against an invasion that would never come. For weeks after D-Day, German forces remained positioned to defend Calais. Garbo sent reports confirming that the Normandy landings were diversionary, that the main invasion was still coming at Calais. Germany believed him. They kept their strongest forces away from Normandy while Allied forces expanded the beachhead. By the time Germany realized the deception, it was too late. Allied forces had broken out of Normandy and were advancing across France. The Fortitude deception succeeded because the double-cross system had built credibility over 3 years. Germany trusted their agents because those agents had provided accurate intelligence countless times. They had reported on factory production accurate. They had reported on troop movements accurate. They had reported on morale and rationing accurate. When those same trusted sources reported that the invasion would hit Calais, Germany believed them. The success of Fortitude validated the committee's brutal calculations. The intelligence sacrificed over 3 years. The casualties accepted to maintain credibility. The attacks allowed to succeed, all were justified by the strategic outcome. The double-cross system had possibly shortened the war by months and saved tens of thousands of Allied lives by ensuring D-Day succeeded with minimal opposition. But the system's greatest success was that Germany never knew. Even after the war ended, captured German intelligence officers still believed they had successful agent networks in Britain. They could not understand how their intelligence had been so wrong about D-Day. The Abwehr leadership was interrogated by Allied intelligence officers. They insisted their agents in Britain had been genuine. that the intelligence had been accurate, that something else must have gone wrong. The truth was revealed gradually. Masterman wrote a classified account of the 20 committee's work in 1945. The account remained secret until 1972, when it was finally published as The Double-Cross System in the War of 1939 to 1945. The book revealed that Britain had controlled every German agent operating in the UK from 1941 onward. The revelation shocked former German intelligence officers. Some refused to believe it. They insisted there must have been agents MI5 had not discovered. Post-war investigation proved otherwise. German intelligence files captured in 1945 were examined carefully. Every agent Germany believed was operating in Britain was identified in MI5 records as a double agent. There were no agents in German files that MI5 did not know about. The capture had been complete. From 1941 to 1945, Germany received no genuine intelligence from Britain. Every piece of information came through channels MI5 controlled. The success revealed fundamental weaknesses in German intelligence methodology. Germany had no systematic procedures for validating agent reports. They believed agents were genuine because the agents sent intelligence that seemed plausible. They never conducted rigorous security checks. They never tested agents by giving them false information to see if it appeared in British actions. They never compared agent reports against intelligence from other sources to check for consistency. The Abwehr's failure was partly structural. German intelligence services were fragmented and competitive. The Abwehr, SD, Foreign Ministry intelligence, and military intelligence all operated independently with minimal coordination. An agent working for one service might be unknown to others. No central database tracked all sources. The lack of coordination made it easier for British counterintelligence to maintain deception because German services did not compare notes systematically. The failure was also cultural. German intelligence officers came from military backgrounds where orders were obeyed without question. The concept that agents might deceive their handlers was difficult for German officers to accept. If an agent said something, the report was filed and distributed. The idea that the report might be deliberately false, that the agent might be working for the enemy, required a level of suspicion that German military culture discouraged. British intelligence culture was different. MI5 assumed all agents were potentially compromised unless proven otherwise. Every report was questioned. Every agent was surveilled. The assumption was that human sources were unreliable by nature and enemy sources were deceptive by design. This culture of skepticism made British counterintelligence more effective because they never fully trusted anyone. The double-cross system also succeeded because Britain invested resources in counterintelligence that Germany did not. MI5 had hundreds of officers dedicated to identifying and managing German agents. They had sophisticated filing systems, investigation procedures, and coordination between agencies. They could track individuals across Britain using police, military, and civilian informant networks. Germany's counterintelligence efforts in occupied territories were focused on political threats, resistance fighters, saboteurs, political dissidents. They devoted far fewer resources to protecting against enemy espionage. The individual double agents had varying degrees of importance. Some, like Garbo, sent volumes of intelligence and were considered highly reliable by German handlers. Others sent less intelligence, but served important roles confirming information from other agents. A few were considered unreliable by Germany, but were maintained by the 20 Committee because they provided insight into German intelligence priorities based on the questions German handlers asked. One agent, codenamed Tricycle, was a Yugoslav playboy named Duško Popov. Popov was genuinely anti-Nazi and volunteered to work for British intelligence. He was recruited by the Abwehr first, then immediately contacted British intelligence. He operated as a double agent from the beginning. His lifestyle, expensive hotels, relationships with women, gambling made him credible as an agent because German intelligence expected spies to live covertly by blending into society. Popov sent intelligence to Germany while vacationing in casinos, which German handlers found believable. Tricycle's most important contribution came in August 1941 when German intelligence sent him to the United States to establish networks there. The questionnaire they gave him included detailed questions about Pearl Harbor dock facilities, ship movements, air defenses. British intelligence passed this information to the Americans as evidence that Japan might be planning an attack on Pearl Harbor. The FBI received the information, but did not act on it decisively. Whether more aggressive action could have prevented the December 7th attack remains debated. Another agent, codenamed Tate, was a Danish citizen named Wolf Schmidt. Schmidt was parachuted into Britain in September 1940. He was captured within hours. He agreed to work as a double agent immediately. Tate operated a radio transmitter from a farmhouse in southern England, sending daily reports to Germany. His reports were generally tactical local troop movements, civilian morale, bomb damage assessments. He continued transmitting until May 1945, making him one of the longest-running double agents of the war. The 20 Committee managed dozens of agents with varying levels of activity. Some agents were retired when their usefulness ended or when maintaining them became too difficult. Others were killed off fictitiously. The committee would report to Germany that an agent had died in a bombing raid or been arrested by British authorities. This allowed the committee to close out agents whose stories had become too complex to maintain while preserving the credibility of the remaining network. The system required enormous bureaucratic effort. Every message had to be drafted, approved by multiple committees, encrypted, and transmitted. The transmissions had to match the agent's previous sending style, the same abbreviations, the same Morse code rhythm, the same errors. German intelligence used direction-finding equipment to track transmitter locations. The transmitters had to remain in locations consistent with the agent's cover story. If an agent supposedly lived in Bristol, the transmitter had to broadcast from Bristol. The committee maintained detailed files on every aspect of every agent's fictitious life. If Garbo claimed to have a sub-agent who was a Welsh waiter, the files included that waiter's name, age, physical description, employment history, political views, family situation, and personality traits. If Germany asked follow-up questions, the answers had to be consistent with previous reports. Inconsistency would destroy credibility. The administrative burden was enormous but necessary. The double-cross system was fundamentally a bureaucratic operation. Its success depended on record-keeping, coordination, and systematic procedures. Masterman's academic background served him well. He organized the committee like a university department, with regular meetings, documented decisions, and clear procedures. The military and intelligence officers initially found the academic approach frustrating. They were accustomed to rapid decisions and improvisation, but they came to appreciate that systematic procedures prevented the errors that would expose the deception. The system's greatest weakness was that it depended on maintaining security absolutely. If any participant in the system defected to Germany or was captured and interrogated successfully, the entire operation would be exposed. Hundreds of British officers and support staff knew about the double-cross system. Any of them could have betrayed it deliberately or accidentally. The committee took extensive security measures. Participants were compartmentalized. They knew only what they needed to know for their specific roles. Radio operators transmitting double-agent messages did not know the messages were false. They believed they were handling genuine German agents who had been turned. Only the 20 committee members and senior MI5 officers knew the full scope of the operation. Even within government, knowledge was restricted. Churchill was briefed on the system. Senior military commanders were informed on need-to-know basis, but most government ministers were not told. The operation was classified above top secret. Documents were marked with special code words. Discussions occurred only in secure facilities. The security measures succeeded. The double-cross system was never betrayed. The post-war assessment concluded that the double-cross system was one of the most successful intelligence operations in history. It achieved complete penetration of an enemy intelligence service. It maintained deception for 4 years without detection. It contributed directly to military success in the most critical operation of the war D-Day. The cost in British resources was minimal compared to the strategic benefit. But the operation also raised ethical questions that were never fully resolved. The committee had made life-and-death decisions about which intelligence to sacrifice. They had allowed attacks to succeed when warning could have saved lives. They had sent double agents into danger, knowing some might be executed if Germany discovered the deception. The decisions were strategically justifiable, but morally troubling. Masterman defended the decisions in his post-war account. He argued that the intelligence sacrificed was minimal compared to what was gained. He calculated that Fortitude alone saved far more Allied lives than all the sacrifices combined. He maintained that the committee made the right choices given the information available, but he acknowledged the moral weight of those choices remained with the committee members for the rest of their lives. The double-cross system succeeded because of a unique combination of factors that could not have been predicted. Germany's intelligence services were incompetent in precisely the ways that made deception possible. Britain captured or turned every German agent through a combination of skill and luck. Ultra provided the intelligence needed to craft credible deception. The 20 Committee provided the bureaucratic competence to manage the operation systematically. None of these factors alone would have been sufficient. Together, they created conditions for complete success. The final irony was that Germany's intelligence failure contributed to their strategic defeat. If Germany had successful intelligence from Britain, they would have known actual Allied strength, actual invasion plans, actual industrial production. That knowledge might not have changed the war's outcome. Allied industrial and military superiority was overwhelming by 1944, but it would have allowed Germany to deploy forces more effectively, potentially extending the war and increasing Allied casualties. Instead, Germany operated blind. They believed Allied strength was greater than it actually was, which encouraged caution and defensive strategy. They believed invasion would come at Calais, which led them to misposition forces. They believed British morale was near collapse, which led them to overestimate effectiveness of bombing campaigns. Every belief was shaped by intelligence from double agents controlled by the 20 Committee. By 1945, when Germany surrendered, they had received no genuine intelligence from Britain in 4 years. Every report, every assessment, every estimate of British capabilities was based on information Britain had chosen to reveal. The entire German understanding of their enemy was a construction created by British counterintelligence. Germany fought World War II against a Britain that existed only in double-agent reports. The real Britain remained hidden behind the deception. This was the achievement of the double-cross system: complete control of enemy intelligence for 4 years without detection, the capture of every German spy in Britain by 1941, the transformation of enemy agents into puppets transmitting scripted lies, the bureaucratic mastery required to maintain deception across hundreds of messages and dozens of agents, the brutal calculations balancing credibility against casualties, and ultimately, the strategic success that helped ensure Allied victory on D-Day and shortened World War II. The 20 Committee had achieved something unprecedented in intelligence history. They had taken control of the enemy's eyes and ears, and the enemy never knew they were blind.